So, quick example. We have a customer, Wiley Publishing. People know them because they make the For Dummies books for, cooking for dummies or whatever. They have a situation where they have every book takes up a fairly massive amount of storage. You can pick, the text, the typing, the layouts, and everything else. Lots of files, lots of graphics elements. And they do thousands of books a year, so they run out of storage space. It's expensive for them to buy more. They're always worried about costs and efficiency. So what they were doing is they would back up these books after they were done to DVDs, pretty low rent, and then they would store the DVDs. But the problem is somebody wanted to make a change, they wanted to edit them, they have to go find the DVD, dig it out, put it back. There's all kinds of manual costs associated with this. And it really didn't work very well. They bought from us a fairly simple ARX system, and they put it in place between their servers, the access to the information, and the information itself. What that allowed them to do is say, when they're done with a book, let's move it from our expensive storage off to a much less expensive storage array that we bought for a tenth the price of the primary storage. So they keep it around. Now, if an author wants to come back and edit something, they don't have to go find it and get it. The author can still access it as if it was a live document. It still looks like it's on the expensive storage, and when they go to access it, we pull it off of the inexpensive storage and present it back to the user. So the bottom line from a business perspective is that we saved them something like 70% of their primary storage, the expensive storage, was offloaded onto the cheap, inexpensive storage. It cut their backup costs by about 80% because they weren't backing up all these old files that weren't being used on every day. And it enabled them to effectively stop buying the expensive primary storage going forward in the future and only buy the secondary storage, which has a long-term recurring cost. So they're a thrilled customer, been a reference customer of ours for a long time, and they're very happy.
So yeah, when the earthquake happened in China, it was just over a year ago now, 18 months ago. One of our SEs was, I think, on a flight in China when it occurred, when he landed, heard the news, and anyway, one of the things that wound up occurring is, on the heels of the earthquake, was that the Red Cross's site in China was just flooded with traffic and crashed. And so the Red Cross in China was not able to collect donations to help the relief efforts as a result of that. So this guy, on his own accord, called up some other folks that worked in the industry, some of the server vendors, and anyway, he coordinated all these guys getting together to come in and basically re-architect the Red Cross site, and got it up and going and prepared for all the traffic that they were facing in geez, I don't know, like 24 hours or 36 hours or something really, really fast. And that was a huge thing and benefited, I don't know how many thousands upon thousands of people really in terms of relief efforts. And it was the right thing to do, and I was really impressed that one of our SEs took it upon himself to go and do that.
So the BMW group out of Germany uses F5's advanced application delivery controllers to make sure that their SAP application, very expensive application, is always available to employees, and also supporting their external users that come to BMW.com. So they can always make sure that customers can always access their site. It's fast and it's available. BMW also likes F5's open architecture and scalability to handle their future growth needs.
If you were at the last International Sales Conference, you would have heard one of the Facebook head of ITs talking about what F5 has meant to them. But I think we all can identify with Facebook. If you're not using Facebook, what they'll say is you're the reason that we're not buying bigger systems from F5. So get signed up for Facebook. The challenge that they were facing was that the way that Facebook has their site constructed is they have two primary data centers, a West Coast and an East Coast data center. And if you follow kind of big e-commerce and big social networking sites, there's a lot of back-end database and application logic that's there, and it's very expensive to try to replicate in real time all that information from the East Coast to the West Coast. It's complicated, it takes an enormous amount of bandwidth, and it really adds a lot of fragility to the overall system. So what organizations will try to do is they'll say, if someone is basically adding content or writing to the database, we'd like them to stay on the West Coast, and if they're reading, they can stay on the East Coast. Now, they didn't have a good way to solve this problem with their existing infrastructure, and because they had big IPs in place, they had the logic to basically say, okay, what is this user trying to do? Is he updating his account? Is he adding a photo? Is he chatting or doing something that actually needs to write to our infrastructure, to the application? Or is he just simply looking at and pulling down information? And so depending on the type of request that they're doing, they're able to have the logic to spread each user to the right data center so that they can basically get around enormous costs for that back-end synchronization and replication problem. So the guy who was the F5 advocate, Dan, at Facebook, came across as the hero because the organization was looking for ways to solve this problem, and the alternatives were millions of dollars, and he basically wrote some custom logic inside the F5 device to solve this problem. Great success story. Facebook, one of the hottest accounts obviously around, and it's a great example of the flexibility that F5 provides. Many companies are in the same place that Facebook is, in that over half of the problems that they're trying to solve, half of the applications on the inside of their organization are custom and in some way different. And so that's really why they need an architectural approach and a lot of the flexibility that F5 brings.
I think one of the most interesting stories about F5 is the stories that we're not brought up in, because we actually have kept critical infrastructure online, whether it's banking systems or tracking systems or military systems or whatever it might be. We kept critical infrastructure, stable, online, available, and secure.